Welcome back. This is Power Breakfast on CNBC-TV18. Back home on Dalal Street, the market ended higher yesterday on the back of government's economic measures and optimism in the US-China trade talks. The Nifty ended above that 11,000 mark. After 3 sessions, the Sensex too touched a 2-week high. So what are the cues today? You remember yesterday was the market's reaction on the cues that took place over the weekend. The SGX Nifty is suggesting a sharp uptake of close to around 60 points, perhaps because of the news that came in yesterday about the RBI as well. For all that and more, we have Anisha this morning. Good morning, Anisha.
Hi Mangalam, very good morning. Well, yes, as you mentioned, the biggest talking point for the day would be the big windfall gain that the government stands to enjoy, given the fact that RBI has decided to transfer 1.76 lakh crore to the government. This, of course, includes the provisions, the interim dividend as well as the surplus. But the fact of the matter is that this number is much higher than what was the number last year, as well as this is even higher than what the government itself budgeted for in terms of the revenue. In fact, Credit Suisse mentions that this inflow is 0.3% of GDP, and that is the higher number than the budgeted number. And this transfer should actually improve the fiscal target comfort, given the fact there was a bit of worry that because of economic slowdown, the tax receipts would be lower, but this would just give that comfort. So on account of this, I will be watching not just the equity markets, but also the money markets, because that will remain in focus. Now, as you mentioned, for yesterday, the Nifty managed to scale above that 11,000 mark. And that is important because if you remember last week, we were languishing below the 10,800 mark. So we have made quite a bit of recovery. Of course, yesterday, as you mentioned, it was partly on account of what we saw on Friday in terms of the additional measures being announced by the finance minister, but the global cues were also very volatile in trade yesterday. However, having said that, it was the financials that were the biggest outperformers. In fact, if you look at the HDFC twins, they added around 45,000 crores to the market cap yesterday itself. And the Nifty Bank and the PSU Bank were up around 3% each in terms of the index. On the flip side, however, metals were coming under pressure as was Reliance ended in the red. They continued to be very volatile. In fact, we saw a 1,100-point recovery on the Bank Nifty as well as 300-point plus move on the Nifty as well as the mid-cap space. However, having said that, the FIIs continue to sell in the cash equity market. The global cues are largely positive. That tug of war between US and China is continuing, so we're keeping an eye out on that. But as of now, Asia is trading higher. And as you said, SGX Nifty also looks positive.
All right, Anisha, thanks a lot for taking us through all of those cues as well as the market action yesterday. But tell us, what are the stocks that you're watching out for in today's session?
Well, not many stocks, Pavitra, to be honest, but I'll start with Infosys because the company informed exchanges that the buyback plan is now complete. In fact, they managed to buy back 11.05 crore equity shares at an average price of 747, and they have deployed an amount of around 8,300 odd crores. Now, remember, perhaps this was the reason that the stock price was around 800 rupees. We'll watch out for whether there is a bit of decline in that stock value in trade today or not. But moving on to TCS, wherein reports suggest that US court has started a fresh trial in the discrimination case, so this might weigh on sentiment. And what might weigh on sentiment is a CS report on IT, which talks about the worsening global macro as well as the client spending that might just impact the growth estimates and the valuations for the sector. So we'll watch out for the sector today in trade. Pidilite is in focus because they've entered into a JV with a Bangalore-based company, and they will be selling that additional product. So we'll watch out for that. Bank of Baroda is in focus because they're looking to raise up to 2,100 crore bonds in the Tier 1 and Tier 2 bonds. Reliance Nippon Life is in focus because Nippon Life has bought additional 10.6% stake in the company via open offer, and they now hold around 53.46% stake in the company. Waddell Industries has a bit of dampening news because CARE has downgraded their ratings. Imami Paper has decided to surrender a plot of land because they were not able to find enough financing for that. And there's this MSCI rebalancing that will take effect today. So we'll watch out for all the changes on account of that.
All right, Anisha, hang in there because while there are not a lot of stocks to watch out for, there is a fair amount of sports to watch out for. And I'm not lying, I've also opened the current match, which is on Federer versus Nadal. And Nadal has won the first set, 6-4. So the Federer fan in me, not feeling very happy, but the Indian in me, super duper happy. What do you have to say, Anisha?
Well, yes, let's see how it pans out because it is going to be perhaps in a very important match, a dream come true for him. So let's see how it turns out for India as well as Federer.
Absolutely, a windfall coming in for all the Indians at sports. But let's talk about the windfall that the